Hello, Yu-Gi-Oh players, and welcome to Yu-Gi-Oh! Business Casual. I'm your host, the RJB0. So many of you guys who have been around my channel for a while are recognizing what I have on my screen right here and are possibly pretty excited, seeing as this is how I got most of you guys subscribing to me. Yes, the reason why I've been gone is because I have begun the process of starting my Banlist According to Logic series. So for anybody who's new to my channel, and hasn't checked out my previous Banlist According to Logic videos, while I'm not being a journalist or a Yu-Gi-Oh player, I am a total economics nerd. I really like studying up on economics, watching the stock market, stuff like that. And as a way of showing off for myself how good I've gotten at this, I tend to make a ban list prediction based on things that I know about Konami and based on empirical measurements of what is the meta and how various decks are doing. What you guys are seeing on the screen right now is my OCG top tier for the last two formats. So this was for the pre-March 2012 format, and this was for the pre-September 2013. Sorry, this is 2013, whatever. Those formats. So what I used to do is I would use Shriek in order to find every event with more than 50 participants and map out which decks got first, second, and third. Then I would tally up each point they got, and then at the end it would reveal a clear top tier. For instance, for the pre-September 2013 format, Dragons had 105 points versus, well, 105 points plus, 52 plus 21. These are the first place. You get 3 points for first place, etc. Spellbooks had 27, etc., etc. And you can see how that works. Unfortunately, since the TCG and OCG ban lists are now split, I can't use this anymore. And the problem is that Konami doesn't really cover the TCG as far as covering premier events. So it's very difficult for me to go through the same process with the TCG, which kind of sucks because it makes this this whole thing a little less accurate. It makes it very difficult for me. The other challenge that I'm going to have with this particular ban list is that it's very difficult to do things in a vacuum. We know that Dragon Rulers have absolutely dominated this format for the TCG, which means that we have to try and speculate as to what would it look like in a format without Dragon Rulers, so that we can determine what else we need to hit. But we do know some things, and as humans, we have this odd, nice sexual attraction to lists. So I have listed out the things we know about ban lists and Konami. So the first thing we know is that Konami is a company. Now this is a really important rule, because it means that we as players have a very different perspective from them. We as players look at the game state and be like, oh, how do we hit cards in order / bring cards back in order to balance out the game state and make it a better game for us as players, which is, it's a fine perspective to have because we are players and that's how we think. The problem is that is not how Konami thinks, and I see a disproportionate number of people making decisions based on what the players think should happen versus the kind of actions that Konami takes against various decks. So we know that Konami will hit cards that are a threat to profit in the future, or even current profit in the case of Dragon Rulers. And they will also hit cards that are, or they will also bring back cards that have a possibility to increase profit in the future as well. So they also know things we do not know, and that means that they know what's coming out in the next few packs, and we don't. They know what kind of... They've probably tested out some decks trying to figure out what's going to be good. They have an idea of how the matchups are going to be for various decks they're coming out with and what they need to hit as a result. That Konami will always know things we don't know, which means that we can't necessarily totally predict with absolute accuracy what they do. However, I've gotten up to 45% accuracy on my last list, which doesn't sound particularly impressive, but I checked for a lot of the other YouTubers, especially some of the famous ones, and they were usually lucky if they got to 20% accuracy. So, especially considering how crazy this ban list was, I'm pretty impressed with myself. Anyway, so the next thing we know about Konami is that, or about this ban list, is that Dragon Rulers are holding back the floodgates. That means, as I was talking about earlier, Dragon Rulers are dominating the TCG so much that we have to imagine what the TCG would look like in a vacuum. What would it look like without Dragon Rulers? I can't just pull an MCOL 40 here and say, yes, I am ragging on MCOL 40 for a second, because his ban list was basically, nothing does anything against dragons, all these decks haven't done anything, so let's just ignore everything that hasn't seen more than like 3 tops this format, which you can't do, because if Konami did that, you're going to have a floodgate of things like Mermails, Constellars, Spellbooks, etc. next format that are just going to dominate, because let's face it, Mermails are a frickin' broken deck. The only problem with them is that they have a god-awful dragon matchup, so once you take away dragons, if you leave Mermails there, they're going to bulldoze everything in their path. And I'll talk about that in another video, but like I said, I can't just assume that since something hasn't seen a whole lot of top-tier play, just like, since Dragon Rulers have the vast majority of it, I can't just assume that it will not get hit. So that's another challenge that we have. The final thing, and the best thing that we know about Konami, is they go by patterns with their ban list. And for that, I have my handy-dandy OCD list of the last, 10 ban lists. So the first thing that Konami usually hits is something that creates what I call an unlimited play, or an uncontrolled play. Those are cards that, with very little cost, if any, create a large expanded play that doesn't necessarily need to stop anywhere and doesn't have any limitations. A great example is Future Fusion. Future Fusion had no cost. It created expanded plays by dumping monsters in the graveyard in order to set up plays, and in the later parts of the game, it can bring out a large monster. It's just a really problematic card because it creates an expanded play. The same goes for, let's see, what am I going to... Spellbook of Judgment and Super Rejuvenation are expanded or unlimited plays. And, of course, we also have, where are you? Fishborg Blaster created unlimited plays. Or uncontrolled plays, Substitute. So you can see how that works. So that's always the first thing that Konami will go after. The second thing that Konami goes after are cards that special summon from the deck. Now, I don't know if you've noticed this so far, but this is actually a really consistent pattern. For instance, Stratos, or Baby Rulers, sorry, I was looking at the Stratos next, were the first thing to go for dragons, aside from Super Rejuvenation and Card Destruction, which are 2 cards that create unlimited plays, so those were the first things to go, of course. So, the Baby Rulers, special summon from the deck. They cause issues. Wind-Up Magician and Zen Mighty were the first 2 cards to go from Wind-Ups. Both cards special summon from the deck. Then you've got, let's see, Dragonfly got hit before what's it called? Before Centipede, because it special summons from the deck. You get the idea. So cards that special summon from the deck, Rabbit, Tour Guide, Hero Lives, those things almost always get hit before anything else. I mean, yeah, you know what I mean. So your first 2 are your unlimited plays, and then your special summons from the deck. The next thing, it's usually a toss-up between draw power and search power. It depends on what the deck is more reliant on. So for heroes, they hit the search power. For let's see, what are they called? Agents, they hit the search power. For Teledad, they hit the draw power. For, what's it called? Just a moment, it'll come to me. But you get the idea. So Konami also, it's a toss-up between the draw power and the search power. Most decks are more reliant on their search power than their draw power. So usually the search power goes first, but it isn't always like that. The final thing that they ever go for, and they hardly ever do this, are boss monsters. Boss monsters, every great once in a while, see a ban list thing. And of course, there are also exceptions to these rules. There are things that just, you know, are really good and don't fit under any of those categories. Boss monsters very, very rarely get hit, and only if they're really the focus of the deck. So that is the first part of my December or January 2014 According to Logic ban list video. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, hit that thumbs up button. If you didn't, let me know why, and then subscribe for more Yu-Gi-Oh! Discussions, analysis, and general shenanigans. Meanwhile, thank you guys for watching Yu-Gi-Oh! And Business Casual. I'm your host, the RJB0, and I gotta jet. See you guys.